most of our viewers will know about DACA. This is the Deferred Action on Child What's the A?
Arrivals.
Arrivals,
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Why do I turn to the guy who's Mexican?
You didn't turn
Cuban.
to me, and
Cuban!
you turned to the right guy. You turned to the right guy, yeah.
So DACA. So President Obama, oh my gosh, pardon me. President Trump comes out a couple of weeks ago and he says, you know what? End the DACA. This is an Obama-era executive order that said, hey, if you're brought here as a minor through no fault of your own, you didn't ask to come here, your parents brought you, some older relative brought you probably. Now you're here, you haven't committed a crime, you're enrolled in school probably, we're going to let you stay as a citizen. Trump comes out and says, that's an executive order, it's unconstitutional. It has to be a legislative action. Congress has to handle this. Everyone goes crazy, right? The right, the left, everybody's going crazy.
Which actually, in a legal sense,
is fine.
Is fine.
I agree with you completely. It is a totally...
I don't know if the intentions were pure, but at least you could say that Congress should deal with it.
Congress should absolutely deal with it. So far as that went, he was totally right, and people were reading into his intentions, of course, things which one might reasonably read in there. So anyway, long story short, many school officials up and down the state of California, including our officials in Santa Ana, have proposed resolutions condemning the president and condemning any change to DACA at all, sort of leaping over the whole problem of whether this was actually constitutional, and leaping over the fact that Trump himself came out like within hours of making this announcement that DACA's at an end, saying, I'm going to give Congress 6 months and then I'm going to step in again, basically sounding a lot like President Obama. Here's my problem. I think school officials reacted precipitously, reacted very quickly on this to call this thing unconstitutional, declare it a war on Latino immigrants and other immigrants in California in order to gin up the worst kind of fear, because it wasn't merited. Nothing was going to happen immediately. You don't agree?
No.
Okay, so I think that immediately jumping on this and declaring resolutions about things that were going to happen or not going to happen was really unconscionable, because I don't think you had to tell people, hey, pack up your bags and leave right now, or you don't have to worry, we're going to stand up and protect
By the
you.
way, it was a 4-1 vote.
Yes, in Santa Ana it was.
And full disclosure.
Yes, full disclosure, I work with Cecilia Iglesias, who is a school board member who was the lone no vote.
Right, she works with the
She
California...
works with me at the California Policy Center. Thank you for helping me with the full disclosure.
Well, I mean, you have a lot of kids. I mean, this is it is shameful how this immigration thing is dealt with in the first place. Just the gaming of it is just disgusting.
Totally agree.
You have a ton of people here that are, as you said, here by no fault of their own. They're children, they're kids. You can imagine how nervous you get when now it's thinking of, well, am I going to be taken? Is my parents going to be taken? What's going to happen? I can understand school officials that have to teach these kids doing something to, in a sense, calm them down. Now, Santa Ana is 78% Latino. If they do what President Trump wants to do, and this issue of being constitutional or not, I mean, I don't know, I'm not a constitutional scholar, but the president does all kinds of things by executive action that the same people that are having an issue with DACA could be also having an issue with, and they don't. Because on those fronts, things like, you know, a foreign policy, the president is given great latitude. And there's a lot of debate whether Congress needs to do that or not. But that debate doesn't happen. It's just, to me, another example where immigration, like DACA is a very straightforward thing, right? I mean, it's like these kids, again, a public safety problem. If you criminalize such large segments of people, you are creating a public safety challenge. And so in some ways, I can see where a governing body is sort of taking action. Now, I'd love to see, I think you were mentioning with John Morlock about California state leaders, I'd love to see people kind of getting to work as opposed to just being outraged and passing resolutions and being more outraged. Because at the end of the day, these immigrants, their children, are the people that are continually stuck in the middle of this, and they're being gamed by both sides here for an electoral outcome. And that's, frankly, it's very sad and it's very frustrating that people are treated like political chattel. Move them this way, freak them out.
Yeah, anyway. I think this incident on a very small local scale shows how the divisiveness, the polarization has even gone down to the local level in a school board. And I'll tell you why, because when Will brought this up that he wanted to talk about it, it's an excellent topic to address. I kind of looked and I got the document that was voted on. As I looked at it, I'm thinking, gee, I wonder why Cecilia, she's been on this show, and I wonder why she voted against it, because it seems like all it said, it didn't say anything about Trump, it didn't, all it said was it was calling on Congress and the president to continue DACA. That's what as I read it, and I kept going, and I remember Cecilia referenced terrorism, that they shouldn't have called it terrorism, and I think that's probably a big reason she cast her vote. Well, then, if you go to a video with the school superintendent in reassuring parents that the school board's going to protect them and their children, said, we'll protect you from from terrorist behavior or whatever, which is then the school superintendent, in my opinion, making a political dig, trying to score a political point and trying to stir things up a little, all right, or trying to take advantage of the situation. So then you've got a school board member who is rightly offended from the way she sees things for what this person said. And so she votes no on a resolution that really, as you look at it, unless you're just against DACA, why vote against it? And again, it's a superintendent trying to get her little dig in, and then maybe a school board member being overly defensive or just angry about it. And so you've got a divided vote. Now, maybe you read it a little different.
No, I read it roughly the same, I think. In fact, I would say you don't have to be a constitutional lawyer, to your point, Norberto. I think what you have to understand is that in Santa Ana, where, yes, the majority of the population is Latino and probably even more specifically Mexican, you do have real high anxiety about this issue. And I think you want to be real careful about how you address it in a way that doesn't gin up fears. Telling people that the federal government's going to come in and kick your doors down and take you out, which is pretty much,
when
paraphrasing.
You say they're terrorizing.
Terrorizing, yes.
Had she not used that word,
and
had
she
wasn't,
not used
and
she
that
wasn't
word,
alone.
it would have been, but she did go on and on, we're going to protect you, and she said about 10 times, we're going to protect you. It's
and
like, okay,
yeah,
okay.
and that's my point, that when you
couldn't help herself.
When you
help herself.
When you fail to educate your students, which Santa Ana does, Santa Ana Unified has failed to educate the majority of its children for generations. Absolutely, utterly failed. 70% of their kids can't read and do math at grade level. They are graduating more of them, they will tell you, which only means that now they're handing out phony graduation diplomas, right? So the majority of your kids can't read and write, can't do math. So what do? You talk about politics.
Yeah,
Let's switch the conversation.
I do think that and while I think that taking a stand on something like DACA is a legitimate thing, and doing a video to let parents know that we have your back, I think that's fine. But I do think it's very easy to pass a resolution to be against something, to take a stand. Much harder to educate kids, to do your job and give these kids an education.
You're always right. Politicians are always looking to give you lots of shiny objects to run after and gnaw on, as opposed to, as you said, do the job of getting the resources to your kids and to your teachers to sort of do what they need to do in a challenging area where they need that education.
And this is what we talked about during the entire show. I don't know if I'm going on too long here, but our entire show, cops, firefighters, why are we not handling the blowing up of our pension system in the state? Because it's a math problem, and it's difficult, and it requires tough political decisions, and nobody wants to do that in a democracy.
Well, we had the buzzsaws going today, didn't we? Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Fun times.